If there is a part of you that ties your worth directly to who you are within your organization. So for me, it was like, oh, I'm a VP. Like that means something. I tied my worth to that. You need to recognize that you do not need that workplace. You do not need that boss to be worthy and to have high confidence and high self-worth. You do not need them for that. And if they make you feel like you need them for that, then that is also a red flag. So just remember that you can be and you are of high value with or without that title, with or without that organization. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Balanced Business Coach. My name is Tony Robinson and I am a life coach for leaders. I talk about all things work-life balance, toxic workplace culture, how to improve the workplace, and overall how you can lead a better life as a leader to set an example for your employees and make a difference in the workplace. Today, I'm going to be giving you some lessons that I had to learn the hard way as a previous people pleaser. I came from an organization that was not only an extremely toxic environment, but it fed into and took advantage of my people-pleasing tendencies. And so I want to kind of give you a little bit of backstory and just explain what those tendencies were for me, and then I will get into some of the lessons that I learned. I was in the car the other day on the way to a client's office. It was like a 2-hour drive, and I just pulled up my notes app or my voice memo app, and I just started going to town, just like spitballing all of these thoughts that I had on the lessons that I've learned. And so I picked out some of the ones that I thought were most impactful, and I will be sharing those here with you today. A little bit of backstory. I worked for an organization. It was a small business for about 7.5 years. When I started, I was an administrative assistant and I worked my way up to a VP role. Now, that in and of itself was a huge ego booster for me, because since I was able to make my way up so quickly and have such a high status in the company, and when I spoke to other people, my title reflected, a certain level of success, I felt like if I were to go anywhere else, or if I decided to leave the organization that I was at, that I wouldn't be able to have the respect or the level of success that I gained at the organization. So I put a lot of my self-worth and my confidence into my boss and just being at that organization as a whole. So that off the bat was something that was really unhealthy for me and kept me there for probably way longer than I should have been. Another thing that was really important to me was that I met deadlines and always got work done. So if you're more on the perfectionist side, and I do have like some perfectionist tendencies, but if you're more on the perfectionist side, you tend to like procrastinate and like overthink things. Whereas for me, as a people pleaser, I was more on the side of, I need to get this done. I need to make sure that I'm not late. I need to make sure that like this is handed in because they're going to be impressed with me. I need to do this extra credit because they're going to be impressed with me. Like those kind of things were what I did. And what happened was I worked in an environment that fed off of that and really took advantage of those tendencies, where other organizations might allow you to set boundaries or have capacity in your schedule and not have to work so much. I was in a situation where they saw the work that I did and thought that I could handle more. And so they would pile things and pile things and pile things on me. And I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to say no. I just knew that I needed to continue to get that praise from my boss, from my coworkers, from my clients. So I would just continue to take things on until I was completely overwhelmed and stressed out. And so after a while, when I started to learn how to set boundaries, how to say no, how to communicate my needs, how to even have the evidence of like, here's what I have going on right now, and this is why I can't take on more, and here is when I can do this, I was met with a lot of contention. And so with all of that being said, I just want to get into a couple of the big lessons that I learned through that process of really wearing myself to the ground. And I even ended up in the hospital at one point because I was so stressed out from this job with like chest pains. And I'm 30, like I was 29 at the time. But I was literally killing my body with stress over a job because I didn't know how to just say no. And a lot of that had to do also with my integrity. I knew that there's life and business outside of my office and my emails. So however I treated people and whatever quality of work I produced reflected on me as an individual contributor. So if I were to produce something that was wrong or not thorough, or if I just turned things in late or didn't reply to clients because I was so busy, I did not feel good about that. I felt really like gross when I couldn't do things well. And I still feel that way. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing to want to produce quality work or to want to, meet deadlines and things like that. I think that's having high integrity and a strong work ethic. But the problem is when you have a work environment who doesn't allow you to say, I'm not going to have capacity for this, or this is out of my scope, I think somebody else should handle this. Those are the things that when you do finally learn to set boundaries as a people pleaser and communicate your needs, if you are in an environment where people ignore those, you need to realize it's time to move on or remove yourself from that situation. And that is what I ended up doing. I tried for probably 3 years, I would say, working on myself, working on my habits, creating better ways to work, because I wanted to make sure that I did everything in my power first before I just put it all on the company. Or I didn't want to have a situation where it was like the grass is greener on the other side and then it wasn't. So I needed to make sure that I did everything in my power first to do what I could to resolve the situation. And when I felt like I had done everything I possibly could, that's when I was finally able to resign. So I just want to acknowledge that if you love where you work and you want to stay there and your boss or your leadership team is supportive of you and would allow you to set boundaries, it's just that you don't set boundaries for yourself, or you don't know how to communicate to your clients or to your coworkers that you're at capacity, that's a totally different situation, but also one that I think is extremely important to learn those skills so that you don't burn yourself out. Make sure that you are taking the time to learn what you need to learn as far as how to set boundaries, how to communicate, how to rest. And then that way you can show up at work more fully. And I can absolutely help with those things. My contact information, if you would want to work together to develop those skills, is down below in the description. But for today's video, I'm going to be talking about really the lessons that I learned from having those tendencies and working in a toxic work environment. So when I finally decided to leave, I felt a little bit like a failure, because I felt like, I've communicated all these things, I've done all this work, and I still wasn't able to get them to see, I still wasn't able to get them to understand. And I felt like I had failed. So if you're in a position where you feel like I'm trying all these things and they're just not getting it, they're not listening to me, you're not crazy, okay? Sometimes it's not you, it's them. And the best thing that you can do for the employees who look up to you, the employees who are around you, is to just set the example. If it truly is a toxic work environment, then just be the example of what comes next. Be the example of that you can leave. For me, I knew that a lot of my employees that worked directly under me were not going to leave if I was still there because they had a really strong loyalty. After I left, I know that it gave them a sense of permission that they could also leave. I had just been there for so long and I had helped so many of them along the way that they had a really high respect for me, and I think that they wouldn't have wanted to leave me hanging because I did need so much support in my role. So if that's a similar situation for you and you have employees that are looking up to you and you worry about leaving them behind, just know that the best thing that you can do for them is to set the example of walking away. If you guys are all, struggling and stressed, just allow them to follow you right out the door. That's what you need to do. So the first lesson that I learned was that employers need you just as much as you need them, if not more. There's always somewhere else that you can go. And yes, there are other employees that they can find to work for them, but they can't find one quite like you, especially if you are truly committed, loyal, produce a high level of work, if you have quality, if your clients really like working with you, if the vendors like working with you. That is something that's really difficult to find in employees. And regardless of whether they can find another person or not, turnover is hard on an organization. And so it is truly equal, if not more important, that the employer retain you as an employee than it is for you to have them as your financial supporter. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about what you want to put up with. If somebody is taking advantage of you in the workplace and they are just wearing you thin, you need to know that you have options and act like you have options. One of the best ways that you can feel confident in the fact that this is not your only place to go is to start building your personal brand. And I've got a video on this, so I'll link it here. But when you build your personal brand, you are essentially not saying to the company, I'm gonna go see other people, but it's like other people can becoming aware of you and they can understand how you work and how you think. And so if you're posting to LinkedIn on a regular basis, people are getting exposed to you as a leader. And then when you do go apply for jobs and they see your profile, or if you are looking for work and people have been engaging with you on, LinkedIn or social media for a while, they're going to be familiar with you and they're going to be more likely to give you an opportunity or repost your I'm looking for work kind of thing. So just keep in mind how important it is to make connections and be in integrity with the people that you work with in your current organization. So if you do have clients or vendors, make sure you treat people with respect, even if they are frustrating the hell out of you. Treat people well, because you never know how that could end up on the other side for you. That could be the person who ends up saying yes or no to you getting a job. You just never know how the world turns. So make sure you're treating people well and that you are constantly thinking about the future. If you're only thinking about now and what your current employer is doing, you're going to be stuck there forever. Think about the future and just know that whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. You shouldn't have to be worried about job security is my point. There are so many other employers that you could go work for, and you need to present yourself as if there's other people out here for me. I don't have, this is not a marriage. We didn't sign papers saying till death do us part. So if you want to go see other people, you can. And your employer needs to understand that. And if they don't, and they just take advantage of you and think that you're just always going to be there, then that should be your sign to get out. They're not holding their end of the bargain. So make sure you're building your personal brand, have some sort of an exit plan if things go wrong, and just make sure that you are really holding yourself in high integrity in any interactions that you have, just in case for the future. Another lesson I learned through this process is that people will only take advantage of what you allow them to. So if you say things like, yes, I'll take on that project, or yes, I'll take that extra meeting, or yes, I'll work on the weekends, or yes, I'll stay late tonight. Those are all things that people will continue to take advantage of if you let them. In my situation, and if you are in a toxic workplace, this is probably the case for you too. I would set boundaries and I would say, no, I can't do this, or no, that doesn't work for me, or no, I don't have time to do X, Y, and Z, but they would give it to me anyway and basically just say like, sorry, tough shit. So if that's the case for you, again, that is the time that you say, all right, I'm out of here. If you are in a supportive workplace and you set boundaries, you will be met with understanding. Now, that means that you need to know how to communicate. So back to the beginning where I'm like, there's some people who like where they work and they do have a supportive work environment. They just don't know how. That's going to be the time where you need to learn how to communicate with your boss. This is what I have going on. This is what my schedule looks like. This is how long I think it'll be until I'm freed up again. And having systems in place to support that. If you have data, it's really hard to argue with facts. And some people will do it anyway, and some people just don't care about facts. But employers who are supportive and employers who are reasonable, they will pay attention to that stuff. So if you come to them and you have information about your current capacity, they are going to be able to give you either resources or work with your schedule that actually is supportive for you and what you're able to handle. So just remember that people will only take advantage of what you allow them to. When you get to that point where they are just continuing to take advantage, even when you try to set boundaries, that should tell you that it's no longer a you problem, it's a them problem. Time to get out. Okay, the next thing that I learned is that if someone sees you as dispensable because you set a boundary, they are not worth your time. They are not worth your energy. When someone takes offense to you saying, hey, I can't take this on because I'm working 45 hours a week and that's my capacity, like I'm at capacity, and they use that against you or get upset with you or they try to like gaslight you about the situation, get out. Red flag. If they, give you 4 weeks of PTO a year and then when you try to take vacation, they're like, well, when you were gone, this and this happened and you should have been here, or we're not going to do anything while you're gone, so you're just going to have to do it all when you get back. Like, those are the things that are so like such red flags in the workplace. When you try to just like have a life outside of work and they make it impossible for you to do that, it's a no. It's a no for me. You don't get paid to think about work all the time and be working 24/7. Unless you are like an hourly employee and you get paid for every single hour that you work. Salary people are not meant to work 90 hours a week, 60 hours a week even. That's not how it's supposed to work. Salary is still supposed to be 40 hours. Sometimes you might work a little bit more. Sometimes you might work a little bit less. But it's the little bit less part where employers really screw salaried employees over. Because for especially people pleasers, you're going to work those extra hours and you're never going to have that like, oh, well, I didn't work these couple of hours here. No, it just gets really messy when you have employers who want to take advantage of you. So if you find that they start treating you poorly because you are setting a boundary or try to make you feel like, oh, well, then, maybe we need to find somebody else, or maybe you're not the right person for the job. No. Literally, business is business. It's a transaction. It should be this for that. And so if you are giving more than they are providing, what are we doing here? So those are the biggest lessons that I've learned. And just as a couple more takeaways from these lessons, if there is a part of you that ties your worth directly to who you are within your organization. So for me, it was like, oh, I'm a VP, like that means something. I tied my worth to that. Or if you tie your worth to how someone treats you or that they praise you, like based on the feedback that you get from them, like they like boost your ego, then you need to recognize that you do not need that workplace. You do not need that boss to be worthy and to have high confidence and high self-worth. You do not need them for that. And if they make you feel like you need them for that, then that is also a red flag. So just remember that you can be and you are of high value with or without that title, with or without that organization. Because that's another thing. Like if you work for a really prestigious company, like a well-known company, and you're like, oh, well, my association with them or the fact that I work there like gives me an ego boost. That's another thing where it's like you're worthy with or without that company, with or without that title, with or without that boss's feedback. It's not that you cannot feel proud because your boss gives you good feedback or because you work for a certain company or because you got a certain title. But if you feel like you have to give up your life so that you have those things, then it's not worth it. There are other ways that you can feel worthy and have self-respect outside of that. So with all of that being said, I just have one question for you. If this is you, if you resonated with this message today, what wounds do you have inside of you that make you feel like you owe all of yourself to this boss, to this company? What wounds are inside of you that make you feel like you need to give up everything? Your happiness, your peace, your family, your friends, your social life, your health. What makes you feel like you have to give all of that up just for them when they're not willing to do the same for you? Listen, if you are in this situation, I deeply, deeply empathize with you. I have been there for a very long time. I was there. And so the reason why I do what I do today is to help people who are in that situation move on. Whether it's on the side of, I just need to get my people pleasing under control. I need to learn communication skills. I need to learn how to set boundaries. I've got you. Or if it's on the side of, I need an exit plan. I need to know what to do, what steps to take, how to know when I'm ready, how to know that I've done enough. I've also got you. My desire for you is just complete, utter joy, happiness, peace, and a love for your life, because it's the only way that you can truly make an impact as a leader is if you are taken care of and you are happy. If you aren't, then what exactly are you setting an example of for the people who are looking up to you? So with that, my contact information is below in the description should you want to reach out, or if you would like some additional one-on-one support. I would be absolutely honored to walk with you on that journey. If you found value in this video, I would really appreciate it if you liked and shared. If you would like to continue to follow along my journey and receive weekly tips like this or ways that you can become a better leader, please follow along by hitting that subscribe button. And until next time, I love you so much and I'm wishing you so much success. Take care.